Taoiseach, the tech industry epitomised cool capitalism's 21st century messaging. Hi, come on in, have a job, pick a desk. Unions? No need for unions here, no need for workers' organisation. Yes, we're a company, but we're more like a family. So, welcome to the family. Taoiseach, behind hype, there is always a reality. And some of the realities behind this industry's ruthless billionaire owners' hype have, unfortunately for the workers concerned, become increasingly clear in recent weeks. In this country, 350 jobs to be lost, it seems, at Meta, 250 jobs, it seems, to be lost at Twitter, 80 jobs at Stripe, maybe 30 more at Zendesk, 700 jobs axed or to be axed, and the number is rising. And of course, tens of thousands of jobs massacred in the name of profit internationally. Now at Twitter, workers were locked out of their jobs and received notice of sacking by email. Despite the fact that unionised Debenhams workers were also sacked by email, one national newspaper commented, I think correctly, the manner in which people are being told of their redundancy has turned a harsh light on the tech industry's union-free practices. Now, I want to offer my sympathy and my solidarity to tech workers who have received blows in recent weeks. Tech workers now need to challenge the industry's union-free practices. Tech workers need to organise. Any tech worker who wants to discuss organising is free to contact my office, and I will offer whatever help and advice that I can. But Taoiseach, the union-free practices of the tech industry and the billionaires that own it have been greatly facilitated by this government, by the last government, and perhaps by no other minister to the same degree as yourself. You are Minister for Education, for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. But despite the fact that in nearly all European countries there is legislation in place, came as a result of pressure from below, which provides for mandatory trade union recognition, there is no such legislation in place here. You say that legislative changes are on the way, but will they amount to full mandatory trade union recognition? So, given the events of recent weeks, will you accept that governments have facilitated these union-free practices, have facilitated the poor treatment of workers seen in this country in recent weeks, and that now is the time for far-reaching change and for mandatory trade union recognition?
Thanks, Deputy. I just wanted to say at the outset that my main concern and that of the government is for the staff and the family members of the staff who are affected by the recent announcement of job losses in the tech sector. And it's something that I've been working on with my colleagues very extensively in the last couple of days, as I'm sure you can appreciate. I can give those staff the reassurance that their legal rights will be protected, that there will be 30 days of information and consultation, that they will receive statutory redundancy payments, and in many cases, in fact in almost all cases, will receive enhanced redundancy packages and exit packages. And I also want to reassure them that the government will help them out as best we can, whether it's with job search to find new opportunities. And it's good to hear today that Microsoft, for example, is still hiring. Good to hear yesterday that Virtuous is creating additional jobs in Dublin 8. So this sector is still hiring, even if some companies in the sector are letting people go. And of course, we're there to help anybody who wants to set up their own business or wants to return to education or training, or needs to know what their welfare rights are. And I want to give that assurance, particularly to all of those staff who are getting bad news this week. And of course, there will be further layoffs in other companies in the coming weeks, and we're not aware of the details of that, but likely to happen down the line. I do think it is important to acknowledge, Deputy, that it is the case that, generally speaking, people who are members of trade unions have better pay terms and conditions than those who don't. However, the tech sector, which is largely not unionised, has better pay terms and conditions again. These are some of the highest paid sectors, some of the best paid jobs some of the best benefits, 4 months paid paternity leave, for example, in one of the companies, which is a very positive thing. So I think it's important to put that on the record. These are good companies, these are good employers, they pay well, they have terms and conditions that are much better than would be the case in the average employer. And it's one of the really good reasons as to why we welcome their investment in this country, and we want it to continue. In relation to legislation for collective bargaining, as you know, I published a report on that matter in the last few weeks. It derives from an EU directive on minimum wages and on the need to increase collective bargaining coverage in the state. That's published, and we anticipate being in a position to respond to it and publish legislation next year.
Taoiseach, you pointed out that workers in trade unions enjoy better pay, terms and conditions, but the tech sector is non-union and goes higher again. Of course, one of the reasons it goes higher again is precisely to keep out trade unions. And you gave various reassurances to tech workers, but you did not give them the reassurance that I asked for, and that is that we will have legislation, as you say, next year, but legislation which provides for mandatory trade union recognition. Of course, the actions of the tech bosses raise the question as to whether this industry should be run by billionaires in the interest of profit in the first place, or by society in the hands of society. It also raises the question of the cosy relationship between right-wing government and those companies. So to that end, I have my supplementary question. Press reports this summer told us that the European Court of Justice hearings were expected by department officials to take place this autumn, paving the way for a final ruling next year on the Apple tax case. Incredibly, your government is still objecting to the state being awarded nearly 14 billion in taxes owed to it. But can you update the House as to the position now with regards to the timing of those European Court of Justice hearings?
Thanks, Deputy. That's a very valid question. I don't have an update on the timing in relation to those cases. That's a matter that's handled by the Minister for Finance rather than me as Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. But let's state the facts here. The European Commission, or the European Court of Justice, decided against the European Commission. The European Commission, or at least one directorate of the European Commission, alleged that 20 years ago, long before either of us were involved in the Dáil, the Irish government at the time had a special tax arrangement for one particular company. The reason why we contested that case was because it wasn't true. It wasn't true. And truth does matter. And the European Court of Justice heard the arguments and ruled in favour of Ireland. Yes, we have a low tax regime, low taxes on company profits. We encourage R&D. That's absolutely the case. But the allegation, which was a false one, was that we had a special arrangement with one company. The court decided in our favour, and now it's on appeal.